Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the And Both podcast. My guest, Becky Selbie, was listening to a podcast when she heard the word matrescence for the first time. She Googled it, watched the TED Talk, and then ran down the stairs to tell her husband because for the first time, she had language for something she'd been living through for years without knowing what to call it. She'd been Googling things like, can you have postnatal depression 3 years in? She'd been wondering what was wrong with her, even if there was something wrong with her. And then this one word answered all of it. Becky is a psychotherapist in London who specializes in maternal mental health and works with mothers at every stage. She takes the framework she uses in her therapy room and puts them into language that women can actually use on Instagram, in her practice, and now here. In this conversation, we talk about the rulebook that stops working when you become a mother, why moms who look like they're coping are often the ones struggling the most, the tab that stays open in your brain even when you're not with your kids, and the distinction between motherhood and mothering that made me pause. And so I think it's really important for everyone to hear that very, very, very important distinction and definition between the two. So without further ado, here's Becky Selbie. Welcome to And Both, a podcast about what it really looks like to put yourself on the list while raising kids and doing all the other things life asks of you. I'm your host, Ashley Blackington, and on this show, you'll hear conversations with moms who are figuring it out in their own ways, plus a few solo episodes from me from time to time. It's not about having all the answers. It's about sharing stories, learning from each other, and knowing we don't have to choose between either or when we're living in the middle of and both. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the And Both podcast. I am here today with Becky Selbie. Becky, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited because I feel like the message that you put out into the world is one that everybody needs to hear, remember, refer to, all of those things. So before we get into that, how about if you let people know what you'd like them to know about you, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm so thrilled to be here, especially having just seen that you had Libby Ward on very recently. So yeah, I feel very honoured. So yeah, my name's Becky. I'm based in London in the UK. I am a therapist who specialises in motherhood, maternal mental health, matrescence. I'm also a perfectly imperfect mum of two. I trained as a therapist when I had my children, and I didn't have a specialism in mind until I literally kind of gave birth for the first time and thought, like, holy moly, like, what is this thing? Mother, not my child, like motherhood. And I just was like, how has nobody prepared me for this? Like, how is the reality, both positive and negative? Like, how is it so wildly different to what people talk about in society? And so I was like, I'm going to work with mums. Like, this is what I'm going to work with. And so, yeah, so I have private practice where I work with mothers. Any stage of motherhood, could be kind of preconception all the way through to teenagers. And you can find me on Instagram at _motherway_, which is really annoying because I'd love it without the underscores, but someone's already got it. So.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
That is the worst. You're like, I have this wonderful idea. You've already like got the branding all in your head to pull those things together. And then you're like, I'm just going to check on, man.
Yeah, because it was the whole point of the name was basically that rhetorical question that you ask yourself, when motherhood is really hard, like, surely to God, there's another way. Like, how, like, and so I was like, oh yeah, like other way. And then like mother. So I was like, yeah, isn't that clever? And then I went on Instagram and I was like, someone's got it. But yeah, you can find me. If you find me, _motherway_, I'm there. And I talk about the reality of motherhood. I try to bring kind of psychotherapeutic frameworks that I use with the mums that I work with and that I also experience with my own therapist. And I try to put them into kind of everyday language so that we can take some of those learnings and apply them to how we're experiencing motherhood, how we're responding to motherhood, and also, like, most importantly, how we view ourselves in motherhood. So yeah, that's me.
I love it. The thing I think is so funny is that I don't know if I've ever had a conversation with a mom on here, in life, whatever, who was like, you know what? It's exactly like I thought it was going to be when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, it's this weird, I mean, this is how you have 8 billion people on the planet. It's like this weird idea of like, get the right, set up the right nursery, buy the right clothes, get the right equipment, all that stuff. And like everything else, all the stuff that like you're left in the dark with is the stuff that people are like, oh yeah, that's just a given. It's like the stroller should be, oh yeah, that's a given. Like,
I mean, that's the easiest, right? Anything you can order on Amazon is like, that's an easy thing to do. But yeah, I feel like my antenatal classes didn't prepare me for the psychology of motherhood. Like, it was all practical, logistical kind of. And for me, that was the most kind of all the factors that kind of can influence how you experience it. To me, it was psychology. It was like I didn't know myself, didn't know what I need or how I am under certain like pressurized situations, or when I don't have access to something, like what does that look like for me? And if I'd known that going into it, I think my early years would have been a lot easier than they were. And they were not easy.
Yeah. And I think too, sometimes people are afraid to say, not necessarily afraid to say, oh, this is different, but that the idea of like, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, or this is different, somehow has been morphed into, there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And like, what? Why? Inquiring minds.
I mean, it's such a big subject, that one question.
Yeah.
Because I have so many kind of different theories, but I think there's something about, well, I could bang on about the patriarchy, but there's something about the patriarchal kind of expectation of how we should be in motherhood, how we should look, how we should feel. And that's not the reality, but it's kind of been designed that way to kind of keep us from complaining and keep us from talking about it maybe and sharing. I don't know. It's a vast question, that one, I think.
Yeah.
It's one I wrestle with loads because one of my kind of dream things to do is to kind of create an antenatal class, or like create an antenatal preparation, the one that you actually really need. But there's two things I grapple with. One is, how much can you say without scaring someone? Like how prepared can you kind of make a woman going into motherhood for the first time without scaring her? We can definitely do better than we are, but I'm not sure how totally explicit we can be. And the other thing is, I don't know, if I think of myself as when I was pregnant for the first time, I don't think I'd have thought I needed that. So it's kind of almost like that. Would expectant first time mums actually want to kind of engage with that? Because they might just, if you've grown up, if your whole life you've been exposed to all these messages about motherhood from society, from films, from books, from family, whatever, which is all that it looks this one way, you don't think you need to prepare for anything other than, like, you think it's the birth, it's the kind of, the fourth trimester, the postnatal kind of period. It is the stroller, it is like the pram, it is the doing, it's the logistics. And I'm not sure how many women would think now is the time, in my second or third trimester, I need to do some like internal work to prepare myself. So I go into it understanding myself a bit better, even though that is, I think, probably would make the biggest difference.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd love to do it, but I'm just not sure how. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. I think that's such a huge piece, is like knowing what you know and then turning around and wanting to help someone prepare, but knowing that, again, this is the reason why we have so many humans, is that, people, that's like the magic of not knowing, because if you knew how hard it was going to be, like if you were someone where you could take a blood test and they were like, you are at risk for severe postpartum depression, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like people would be like, I'm not going to do that. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they'd be more prepared. But I love the fact that the term matrescence is now a part of everyday language, because I feel like that is this magic key. It's the magic word. It's like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where you walk through and it sort of pulls everything together in such a nice way for people.
Yeah, and it's funny, when I was talking just now, I was thinking maybe the kind of, I was not emergence, because obviously the term has been around since the 70s, but this like recent kind of revival of it and celebration of that word, I feel like that is maybe the thing that will change that antenatal prep. Like if that word becomes, as it should, like as kind of common parlance as adolescence, then surely it has to become like a part of all antenatal preparation. It'll just become like unthinkable not to kind of cover it in some way. And even just covering it a bit and making sure that women and partners know that this is a transition. Like you're not just done at the fourth trimester. It's not like 12 weeks and like, boom, you're back out into the world and you're, no different. Like matrescence lasts forever. Like I always describe my children are 8 and 7. And I always say, like, I am a first time mum. Like I haven't had an 8-year-old before. Like I won't have had I've never had a 9-year-old. Like I will do at some point. So like it's always, it's ongoing. But yeah, the word, like, that is the greatest thing that has happened, that word being revived. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that I love that part gives me hope. And in all honesty, I'm trying to think of the first time that I heard the word, and I am 100% sure it was after I had all of my kids.
Yeah, same.
Like,
yeah. Yeah, I can tell you, I can remember running down the stairs to my husband. I heard it on a podcast, and then I Googled Alexandra Sachs and her TED Talk, and I watched that TED Talk, and I have shared that with so many clients. And I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is the thing that I've been going through. And, I'd prior to that, I'd been Googling, like, can you have postnatal depression like 3 years in? Like, is that even a thing? I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, what? And then I read it and I was like, listened to it, sorry. And then like Googled it and then read the kind of definition. I was like, yeah, this explains it. And I literally ran down the stairs and told my husband, because it was like this, to me, it's like a kind of, that moment in my life is like a line in the sand. It's like a bit, one of those kind of like crossing on. It's like, I viewed myself so differently. And I hadn't, at that point, Lucy Jones's book wasn't out. I hadn't done any more than watch that Alexandra Sachs's TED Talk. And actually I shared it with my mum. My mum had her first child in end of the 60s. And she really struggled with what she would refer to as postnatal depression. And back in the 60s, early 70s, she was prescribed tranquilizers. It was, it was kind of really barbaric kind of treatment. And I sent it to her and she was kind of like, wow, like there's a word. And she was like, yeah, that was me. And because she'd left London, she'd gone to like somewhere which was really quiet. She didn't have a car. There wasn't a phone. Like, she was really isolated. And she kind of listened to this description of matrescence. And she was like, yeah, like I wasn't chemically, hormonally depressed. I was isolated, tired, exhausted, like, scared, confused. My identity had changed. I wasn't near my family, like all those things that came together. So yeah, that word is, it's magical. And it makes me so frustrated that it was around since the 70s. Like, I think it was 72, I think Dana Raphael kind of coined it. And then it took, nearly 50 years, I think.
I also think it's very strange that when we say 1970, I'm like, oh, that's like 30 years ago. Like,
yeah, I know.
I still like Y2K time reference. Oh my gosh. I do. I think, when you were talking about it and sort of that realization piece of like, there's not something wrong with me, this is a change that's happening. I feel like we're, it's that puberty conversation that everyone just has as a given, right? It's like, oh, your kids go through this, and sometimes this looks like this, and sometimes it looks like this, and it depends on your kid's personality or hormones or whatever it is. But there's this grace around when they're in that phase that currently is emerging, but I will say does not exist for moms as today. And when I think about it in that terms, I'm like, oh, we just have to get it more out, like more focus, more attention, more acknowledgement, and then we'll move matrescence into the space of adolescence. And it won't be, this like there is something wrong. It's just part of what it is.
Yeah.
It makes me hopeful.
I hope so. And I think my hope is someone will write a book for partners and for other kind of family members, like Lucy Jones's book, but specifically for those that are, that are sort of surrounding and supporting, hopefully, and holding the mother so that they can understand it. Because, I think until you've been through it, you can't, it's just so hard to put it into words. Like, but you and I both know kind of what we're talking about, even though we're not using lots of words to describe it. We both know this thing, this experience.
Yeah, I remember when my first was born and I was in the hospital still and she was in the little bassinet, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go have a shower because you just had a baby. And like, all you do is sweat, right? Like, you just sweat for months. You're like, it's the grossest. There's so many things that you're just like, what is happening? Like, I had this body yesterday and this one is new. Like, someone changed the model on me. But I remember I was in the hospital and I was like, I'm going to take a shower because I know that some people are going to come visit and whatever. And I got up, and it was this point when I realized, like, I am a separate individual from this baby. And I was like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Do I do I bring the bassinet in the bathroom? Like, can I leave it in the room? Is
Yeah.
somebody, it's just like things that I had never heard of before, never had to think about before, not heard of, but had to think about before. And it was like, all of a sudden I am separate from this person. So I did what any person who had been awake for 24 hours and hadn't showered is I left the bathroom door open and I had the bassinet half in, half out because I couldn't even make a choice.
Sounds perfectly reasonable.
Right? But it's that piece of like, oh, we're separate now.
Mm.
And what does that mean? And how
Yeah.
does that, now I have to think about this layer of that person. So, I don't know if that is should have been when I had hey, by the way, this is matrescence in a
Yeah.
very solid form. Like you are in a different place right now than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
I was just thinking that thing of like, we're separate, but also you feel like permanently connected. You don't kind of stop thinking about them. You don't, even when you're not with them. I was saying to a mum the other day, a new mum, and we were talking about when you have some time away from your baby or kids or whatever. And I just had a weekend away with my husband, the first in like over 2 years. It was like well overdue. And I was talking about that sense of having a tab open constantly in your head. So even though you're
Mhm.
away, a bit like, like a computer screen, like there's a tab open all the time, which is them. But I was also saying to her that like as they've got older, like on that weekend, the tab felt so much smaller than it would have done when they were like, I don't know, the first time I went to the shops without them when they were a baby or had an hour away from them or whatever. So it definitely gets easier. But it's like you never ever feel totally disconnected.
No.
Like, and that's not a bad thing, but it's just, it takes a long time, I think, to get for that to feel normal and to not be able to remember what it felt like to not feel like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When you're not, it's not party of one, it's party of one plus.
Big party. Yeah.
Yeah. My first hour away from my daughter, from the minute that the person who came to take care of her came in, and I called her Mary Poppins because she has been a nanny for 20 years and,
Wow.
is like one of those magical people. And I handed her my daughter. My husband and I went downtown. We live in a small town. We went downtown. I ordered dinner. I don't even think we ordered dessert, but I ordered dinner and asked for the check. I ate like a raccoon and we were home in 45 minutes. Like I was like, done. We have checked the box. I have gone and I have eaten and this is a date night, whatever, but like I can't do it anymore. Sweating the whole time.
Yeah, that just made me think when I only had 15 months between my two. And when I had my son, my second, I'd never left my daughter overnight, which was a big mistake. So massive mistake to then the first time is when I then go into hospital. And I was in hospital for 4 days. And I remember getting back and leaving him in the baby seat in the car with my husband. And literally, I was hobbling and had a C-section, but I was like moving as quickly as I could to get down the driveway to get to her because I was just like, yeah.
All these pieces, they get scattered out in the world.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you talk about a lot and in bringing this language forward is about this concept of like moms who look like they're coping but feel like they're failing.
Yeah.
And I think if we could put some flashing lights, Las Vegas style, around that and put that in everyone's front doorstep, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose I often, when I tend to write posts about that, it applies to everybody, but I'm particularly thinking about high achieving mums, like the mums that kind of, before having kids, are just used to kind of doing lots of stuff and doing it well and living by an equation that says that if you try really hard and do your research and aim high, then you will always get, fantastic results out the other side and success, whether that's, I don't know, do really well at school or in your career or sporting success or friendships. Or I find those women struggle in motherhood more so than other women. But I think that whole, I think, most of us try and give off a kind of an exterior facade that says that I'm totally fine. Yeah, coping. Like I always think of like a swan, that thing of like gracefully kind of like above the water. It's like, we're fine. And then underneath, like the legs kicking frantically.
Mm-hmm.
And it will often depend like woman to woman why they feel unable to be totally, I was going to say honest, but that's the wrong word. But like to give that really, really unfiltered kind of response, or kind of, what's the word that I'm looking
It's
for?
like transparency or something.
Sorry, my perimenopause, like brain fog, is so annoying at the moment. So my words are a bit jumbled. But yeah, basically just like that unfiltered, like that totally unfiltered. There's no mask on. There's no kind of veneer. It's just like, this is how I'm finding it. I'm going to be really honest about it. And for whatever reason, we so often feel like we have to kind of cover that up and just be like, no, everything's fine. It's all good. You know, I'm going to post a nice photo on social media showing that I'm having a really good time and like nailing life. Whereas actually, like inside, I'm like, I can't do this. I can't cope with this. Like, I'm a terrible mother. Like, I'm probably damaging them. You know, that spiral of kind of.
Yeah. And when do people, so in practice, is that a lot of the clients that you see? Like, how do people come and see you when they're sort of at that point? Do people see you, earlier on than that? Like, where do you find in your own experience, people are like, you know what? I am going to phone a professional and I am going to have a conversation because this spiral is making me dizzy.
Yeah, I was just thinking that I was kind of like going through all the kind of like the faces in my head of all my clients, like past and present. And I would say more often than not, I tend to work with mums who are like a bit further along. So they're not in that kind of first year. I do see mums. I have mums that come with their babies in the first year, but I would say far more often it's that kind of maybe like toddler, preschool kind of years where I guess it's that point where the novelty's worn off in terms of like other people kind of being interested, helping, and you're out of that kind of first year, and maybe that's when you start to think, oh, if I feel like this, then maybe there is a problem. This isn't like normal kind of like, the first year, I should be really tired. I should be a bit fed up. So I tend to see, I would say most of my clients, kind of once they've been in it for a while and they're thinking, doesn't feel like it's getting any easier. Like it's not, I don't think this is baby blues. I don't think this is just sleeplessness. This feels like something that kind of is lingering and I can't quite shake it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think that makes total sense. I think too, the part is, I shared before we started recording that this podcast came to be because of conversations that I had with other parents, like at school drop off or standing on the sidelines of things, where it's kids that a lot of those conversations are around like the last baby, so the last baby was, maybe they had one that was going into school and so they still had another one at home, but that thinking about what am I going to do? Not what am I going to do to fill my days? That's like, that makes my blood boil. But like, how do I organize my thinking around like motherhood and around like things for me and all of that stuff? If the space that I have is no longer, all baby all the time or all toddler all the time, all of that stuff. And so like a lot of times these were conversations where people are like, I don't really know. I thought that I would feel differently when I got to this point, or I thought that, I'm sad, but I'm not. I'm happy, I'm not. I don't know where ugh.
Yeah, I was just thinking, when you were saying that, I was thinking about chapters, and I was thinking about, I think it's really useful to tell new mums, particularly first-time mums, that you don't have to enjoy, and you won't enjoy every single chapter. And just because like one chapter isn't your favorite and you don't enjoy it doesn't mean you're not going to like enjoy the rest of the book. And I remember someone saying that to me once. It was like, you won't love every phase, like every different kind of section of motherhood. Like, I didn't enjoy the early years. I found the early years incredibly tough. And once my kids kind of got to kind of, I don't know, sort of 4-ish, I found that a lot easier. Whereas I know other mums who like have loads of babies because they love the early years and they just want to go back to those early years. And I find that fascinating. Again, it comes back to that like rigid kind of, we should all experience it the same way. And there's one way to feel about it. And it's like, that's just like mad. That's completely nonsense. Like, that kind of blows my mind. But yeah, so I think to your point, it's hard if you've got more than one child and they're in different sort of stages. It's also like, how do you find your tribe? Like when you have one and you're firmly in that kind of, I don't know, the first year or the preschool years, or then you kind of have other people who are doing exactly the same, right, at the same time, and you can kind of find your tribe easier. Whereas if you've got a foot in like 3 different camps. How do you find somewhere where you feel like you, I don't know, not belong, but where you can kind of be? And yeah.
And you also have people that are if you're one person that has multiple children and you're talking to people who are squarely in those camps, that's where you get that disconnect between
Yeah.
like maybe you have people who are like, I've really nailed this newborn thing and I love every minute of it and these are all the things, and then the toddler, there's always someone who's like, my kid loves vegetables
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then it's like my kid can read when they're like 3.5, and it's like,
Yeah.
you've all nailed it and I'm just trying to get out the door in the morning. Just
Yeah.
trying to make sure that people have their shoes on the right feet and that we have lunch and like, I haven't left somebody somewhere and the dog isn't standing on the front yard.
Yeah. But it's also like, how much are they truly nailing it? Like it's,
Yeah.
I love, I think you said it before we started recording, but that's it. Remind me of the phrase, but about the back end and the front end, because.
Oh yeah. It's, I heard this in business. It was don't compare the back end of your business to the front end of somebody else's.
Yeah. And I do that. Like on the school run in the mornings, I've found myself doing that at times when I've had a really rough, I don't know, when it just hasn't gone to plan. It's been like a real nightmare morning. And then you kind of walk in and you're like, morning, like, kind of have your sort of, kind of like your mask on. And then I've found myself walking back and going, oh, she looks really together. And like, they're just kind of walking really serenely. And I have to kind of give myself a talking to, like, you have no idea what their morning looked like, because they're looking at you and you're walking up going, morning, even though it's just been really difficult. So it's, I always think, how much do we really know? How many people don't have that mask on? Like, to go back to your original point, it's like we're all putting this perception out there, or often, not always, but
yeah.
For me, if I think of all my mum friends, they are all the honest ones. They're the ones that are really honest, have a really dark sense of humour about motherhood, and it makes me feel so much better when they are honest. Like, just makes me feel so much more normal.
I have a really, really dry sense of humor, and it's a little dark and twisted sometimes. And I remember the first time a friend of mine, there's this young babies, and you get everyone together, and they all kind of like fall all over each other, and everyone sticks everything in their mouth, and you sit there and you talk. And I remember the first time someone said, I really don't like the newborn phase.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, like, not a pin drop moment, but I was like, let's discuss. I did like the newborn phase. I really.
You had 4, so you must have done.
I mean, yeah, I really liked it. The phase that I found the hardest is 3. That for me, and everyone that, that I know that has had kids after me, that's like, you're crazy. You've had 4 kids, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's mechanical. Like a 0 to 2 is mechanical.
Yeah.
You get up, you do the thing. You are the Clydesdale of your like childbearing, right? Like one foot in front of the other. I can do that.
Yeah.
I would have been great in the military, but terrible at taking directions. And then like 3 happens, and it's like, well, no, I'm not actually going to do that.
Yeah.
But there's no reasoning. There's no like logic, whatever. It's just no. Yeah. And then at that point, like I'd have one other kid with me or whatever. And I'm like, 3 is, some people are like, I like to go to the museum and they're discovering things and they're saying words and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we're just fighting about the bathroom.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah.
Like this is 0 out of 10 for me, although you're adorable and I'll take your picture and all that stuff. But it's that same measure of like, don't love this, love them, don't love this.
Yeah. And also I think like, same storm, different boats, right? They might have a child the same age, but they're just a different natured child. Both of my kids are really, really spirited. I like to use the term spirited, which is amazing for them. Like they'll be brilliant in the world when they go out there because they know their mind. But them at 3 was, Whereas I do know other mums who have kids that are just incredibly kind of just quite placid and, just follow instructions and there's none of that kind of pushback, none of that resistance and frustration. So 3 is
3 is so hard. And then you have all of the other things that you hear right now. It's like, your kids push back because they feel safe and all this stuff. And every once in a while my husband look at each other when we're like, this is a safe space, right? It doesn't feel safe for me right now, but I'm glad that they feel safe.
Yeah, they're like mini terrorists. And there's so much. I could talk about that for hours. Like there's so much stuff out there on the internet about psychological kind of, that content that kind of tells us, every interaction we have with our child is going to damage them and kind of everything
Oh
is,
God, yeah.
that kind of like, and so I kind of put it in that camp. Like, I don't disagree with the fact that our kids can kick off and be a certain way because it feels safe to do so. Like, I totally get that. But like, yeah, it just makes me think of all the other kind of content that I see that is really problematic that comes into my therapy room, that women are, they're convinced they're kind of basically completely like screwing their kids up because of like one thing. And it's like, no.
Yeah, how do you feel about, because I think that we're in a really interesting time thanks to social media, where I saw a thing the other day. It was a video, it was a doctor saying, why are all doctors trying to be influencers?
Yeah.
And the answer was because all influencers are trying to be doctors.
Yeah.
And it's about like how much access we have to the language, but we don't have access to the context or the research or whatever. And thanks to like, AI writing term papers and things like that, who knows what people know or don't know if you come at it with a face value. Like, how do you feel about that as a therapist who has training, who has clinical expertise and practice and is bringing messages out into the world that are grounded in theory and what you've learned and what you see and all of that. And then you see someone come online who has like, 10 million views on something that you're like, oh, that's part of it. Or even like, that's not it at all. But you did a really nice job making that video. And now people are taking that as like the word, I guess.
Yeah. How do I feel about it? I suppose I just feel frustrated, and it makes me sad when I work with women who, kind of have listened to something, but but haven't been given the context or the kind of like rational application of that piece of theory. So I think we are so bombarded with content and messages about parenting and about what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. Like, and I just think it's really hard to parent in a time where you have these constant messages coming at you. And if you don't have the context, so if you just hear somebody say, if you speak to your child in this way, then they're automatically going to grow up thinking X about themselves. It's like, well, no, like you'd have to do that a number of times. Like that would have to be an explicit and implicit message that they take from you throughout their childhood for that to get really embedded as like a kind of a belief about themselves. But you have kind of vulnerable mums who are, particularly first-time mums, who are hearing that content and they're thinking, oh my God, like I snapped at my child the other day, so I've damaged their self-esteem forever. And it just makes me frustrated. It makes me really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I don't know what the alternative is. And I guess my frustration is there's a nugget of like truth and usefulness often in the message, but it's just, it lacks that context. It lacks that kind of caveat basically of, this can happen, but it needs to be on like extreme levels, and it needs to be over like a consistent kind of sustained period of time. And actually, I remember my clinical supervisor, who I kind of take cases to and kind of get kind of insight and advice from. I remember once saying to her that I had a client who was really terrified that she was going to, in her words, fuck her kids up. And I remember my clinical supervisor, who's a woman she's got PhD in postnatal depression. She's much older than me, so she's got grandkids now. And I remember she laughed and she went, well, she will. and I loved it. It was so freeing because she was just like, we are going to impact our kids, like for good and for bad. Like hopefully, the bad or the kind of, the less good bit is minimal. But like, we are going to impact them. We are going to influence them. You cannot go through parenting, your kids' childhood, their time with you kind of as their parent, without sometimes making mistakes and sometimes getting it wrong. But you've got to get it wrong a lot to really do lasting damage, I guess is my feeling. And I don't think that comes across in the content that we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about humans raising humans, right? And we're naturally not perfect. And this idea that like we only show 10 or 30 seconds of our life and people write the whole rest of the story based on what the little snippets that we put out there, it's so impossible to swim upstream against.
Yeah, and also that content kind of makes you think that it's all or nothing. You have to get it right all the time, and it's like you don't. And also, there's so much value in acknowledging when you get it wrong and taking that rupture and talking to your kids about it and, apologizing. I'm not an advocate of like constantly apologizing, but like when it matters, apologizing, but giving them some insight into why you responded in the way that you did, so that you model to them that actually it's okay. Like you can have difficult conversations, or you can have, uncomfortable responses to things, and it's okay as long as you talk about it. So yeah, I guess my feeling is that it would be nice if people stayed in their lanes. I had someone actually come at me on Instagram the other day, and I did a post about intensive mothering and just like the pressure that mothers feel kind of today, which is kind of linked to this. It's all, because I was talking about where that pressure comes from, and like a lot of it is that noise from social media and just the noise that comes at us now. Like, you think 40 years ago, 50 years ago, there was like a daily newspaper. There was like a few news programs throughout the day. Magazines were like once a week or once a fortnight or whatever. Like, just the volume of noise that comes at us now, messages. And I did a post about it, and it really resonated. Like it got a lot of engagement. And on the whole, most of the mums were like, oh my God, like I'd never thought about it this way, but this is so useful. And then I had someone come at me and basically like, your kids are really young, like you're no one to give parenting advice and da-da-da. And I was like, I've never, ever, and will never give parenting advice. Like that is not my zone of genius, like by any. And I'm just like, no, that's not my lane. I've never strayed into that lane. Like she was confused by my post, but you have to stay in your lane, and you have to be. I think you have to be really responsible about what how you share theory. And I talk a lot about the concept of us having a rule book, like an unconscious rule book that we operate kind of from in life. And we all have one, all humans have one. And what I've noticed is that in motherhood, that rule book, so things like, please others, try hard, be strong, be perfect, those rules that kind of tended to work for us before motherhood. So a bit like I was saying about the high achievers, like they would have helped us to do well at school or do well in our careers or whatever. They often, or they always, start to work against us in motherhood. And so, you can't be perfect in motherhood. Like it's just like that is the road to kind of like awfulness and misery. If you keep following that be strong and you're someone that doesn't ask for help and doesn't accept help, well, motherhood's going to be like way harder. And then like, I will always say when I share that kind of theory in the way that I do, I'm like, but it doesn't mean you never use those traits again. It doesn't mean you stop like ever following them. It's just about being more conscious and more aware and choosing to use them. So like, is this in my benefit, right? Like does this serve me to lean into that like trait that I'm really lucky to have, where I can be really strong, like I am someone that can really hack it and can kind of take on hard things? Or is this a moment to actually go, it would be far better for me and my family if I asked for help or accepted help and I didn't lean into that? So I think it's that thing of sharing theory, but always giving a bit of a caveat of, this is not a kind of a one size fits all the time kind of approach.
Yeah. And I like I feel like that really connects to what you just said before that, where if we have all of this noise, it's like your face is always to the screen. And so in order to say like, is this trait that I have, is this something that I need to lean into right now? Like, am I at a point where I need to like push through something? Or do I need to take a step back and say, I could use some help or whatever? But that requires perspective, and perspective requires space. And so we're always kind of like head in a blender about motherhood. And we're wondering why like everything is so, it's like the 4th of July going off in your head the whole time, right? Like it's everything just feels so high pressure, so extreme. It's because we just don't have the capacity, or we don't remember to take that step back to say like, oh, wait a minute. And that's not a personal failing. I think that all of those things that we engage with are designed to keep us close, to keep us staring at it, to keep us locked into it.
And to keep serving us more and more, like, on that one thing. So again, it's not even like the noise is there, but you don't even get a kind of a balanced serving of different flavors of noise, right? You just get like, I don't know, if you've watched something on gentle parenting, then that's all you get. And so you assume the whole world is managing to gentle parent at all times. Like, I don't know if that's as much a thing in the States over here.
Oh yeah.
And it drives me mad. But again, it's that thing of like, the noise tells us that there's like types of parents, right? I've seen a couple of articles this week on Instagram talking about beta mums And so now it's like, oh, okay, so now I have to choose which one I am. Like I'm an alpha mum or a beta mum. And I'm like, it's like a million different versions, but the noise tells you that there's these like rigid types of mum that you should be or could be, or like, and there's no reminder that actually like you will be your own unique version. And that's totally like, not only is it fine, it's actually the best version that you can give your kids. But
yeah. Well, and then you circle back to the patriarchy and how that all rises in. Like, we have how many different definitions? It's like every time you open up your phone or you open up some social media, there's another mom type or parenting type or whatever. And what about dads?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just dad. You're dad.
Yeah. There's a brilliant comic by, I think it was Mum Life. And it had these images, these cartoons of like mums and dads doing the same thing, but it was fun dad, lazy mum, basically. So it's like dad comes home with macs and it's like, oh, fun dad, like, yay, we've got takeout. And then it was like the mum does the same and she's like, she's lazy mum, basically. And it's so true. It's there aren't all the terms for dads. And even when you think about like, I don't know, like helicopter parents, or they say parents, but really they're not talking about the parents. Tiger mum, like there isn't the equivalent.
Mm-mm. No, you just have to. And one of the things, I just wrote a piece about this for Mother's Day. The U.S. Mother's Day was last weekend, about how so much of the research around motherhood and the impact of motherhood and all of those things stems from, they piece apart. Was your mom this type? Did your mom respond this way? Yada, yada. The research that's there for dads, was your father in your life or not?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Check the box. Like, if you just have to check one box to like have done a good job or whatever, can you imagine for motherhood what that would be? If it was like, you have checked the box. Like, how much relief of pressure would we collectively feel across the planet if that was the case?
I mean, yeah. Yeah, it made me think, I don't know why, it made me think when I was doing my psychotherapy training. I did it when my kids were really little, like they were babies. And all the theory, I started to find myself getting really kind of riled up, because all the theory was largely, the fundamental theory, the kind of the basis of that it's all kind of grown up from, was all by men. And so often it was kind of everything was the mother's fault, like everything. And I just used to sit there. And I remember like in one tutorial, like they were talking about controlled crying and the evidence, this was really harmful and stuff. And I was like, actually, it's much more nuanced than that. I think you have to look at it holistically and look at like, that's a whole other subject. But I think you have to look at like how the mum is doing, like, and how the baby is doing, all that stuff. But the very, very clear message that I got literally was like, well, it's very damaging, like just a concrete answer. And it was from a male tutor. And I remember just thinking, I don't know if you've had kids, but, could you imagine a situation where actually gentle, controlled crying might be the best thing for that family if the mum is on her knees with absolute exhaustion and postnatal depression and, needs the baby to sleep. And I'm not talking about leaving the baby for hours to cry, but like, it was so frustrating, because it was this kind of everything is down to the mum. It was just, I found it mind blowing. And it just didn't talk about dads in the same way. I mean, this is specifically sort of psychotherapy training, but it was all fixated on the mum.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the question they ask, right? Is, tell me about your relationship with your mother. Like, it's been, when they make movies about, early Freud, right? Tell me about your relationship with your mother. I went to therapy for my relationship with my dad, and they were like, well, what about your mom? And I was like, not the subject of this conversation.
Wow.
It was like they wanted to talk the entire time about my mom. And I was like, this is not what's on the paperwork that I wrote to come in here.
Yeah. And at the same time, we hone in on like the potential for the mother to do harm, right? Mental harm, and the kind of the pressure therefore on us not to. But at the same time, society doesn't hold mothers in high regard. So it's like, you kind of, on the one hand, you're saying you have so much power to damage, to damage this person as they grow up. But then on the other hand, they don't say you do so much. Like you are such a huge part of their life. You have such a huge influence for good. Like, because there isn't the sort of the misogyny of the patriarchy is just like, oh, you're just the mum. I find that it's like a real contradiction.
Yeah, I mean the bar is in space, right? As far as
Yeah,
you can try and try and try, but you don't. The level of responsibility and the level of acknowledgement are so far apart from each other
yeah,
that even if you do a really good job, it's like, well, that was the bare minimum, and you're like, I have just scraped together
yeah,
my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, all of those things for the last 18 years to
yeah,
like grow and develop and nurture a person out into the world. And you're telling me I just came in under the wire?
yeah,
It's exhausting.
yeah. I often think about how important language is and like the difference between motherhood as a word and mothering, because
Mm.
motherhood is that kind of bar. It's the doing, right? It's the perfect mother myth. It's the kids in kind of clean clothes going to school looking immaculate. It's the house looking great. It's all the kind of the labor. The mothering is the bit that matters. That's the being, that's
Hmm.
the relationship with your child. That's the love you pour into them. It's the thinking about them. It's the knowing them inside out. It's the being attuned to them. But motherhood and our relationship with motherhood, the doing is how we're graded effectively. It's not,
Yeah.
we're not given kind of credit for all the mothering. And that's the bit that actually matters and counts. But I suppose it's the less visible bit, maybe.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's really interesting. I love that, the delineation between the two, because it is that idea of like, also I think about this in terms of like the report card for how well you did as a mom. You don't get until your kids have left home.
Yeah. And you're making like a million decisions, like lots of them big, important ones, all important, but some smalls. And some of them you'll never know. You'll never know whether that was the right decision.
Hmm.
And others you will know, but it will be so much later. It'll be so many years down the line where you go, oh yeah, okay, I got that one right. Or didn't.
Or even the ones where, you're like, I didn't think that was a big deal, and that is a big deal. Like I think that's what feeds into this fear of when we're talking to people, when people are talking to you on social media and they're saying like everything counts, maybe it's because their own personal experience is this one
Yeah.
thing turned into a big thing.
Yeah.
The thing I would really love to see is, do you know how when social media first got really big and they made people that worked with companies, they made them like say that it was a sponsored post or
Oh
that it
yeah.
was an ad of some
Yeah.
sort. Like it had to be up there because I don't know why, safety for the consumer or something like
Yeah.
that. How come we don't have that for medical advice or
Yeah.
therapy advice or anything like that? Like if we start putting that on, I think we can really trim a lot of the
Yeah.
hedges.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we have that? It should be there. Yeah. Why don't they? Why isn't someone motivated to do it, or why don't they allow us to do that? It would help massively.
Hmm.
We just had there's just been a big like BBC investigation into sleep consultants here in the UK, and just
Oh.
it's unregulated and a kind of an expose. And and kind of similar conversations have come up around that, about kind of, what they can and can't talk about, like what they can and can't give advice about. And some are giving kind of, medical advice about babies that they're not trained to do. But yeah, I wonder why we don't have that on social media.
Yeah, it really, I think that, I mean, and in America right now, I mean, the UK is doing, anyone in the world is doing a better job than we are when it comes to like regulating whatever is falling out of people's faces
Yeah.
or having some accountability or whatever. So I think that we are really at the bottom of the ladder in terms of our ability to be honest with ourselves and be honest with the what we're putting out there in the world, like as a country. But I think that for me is hope as we move forward, when the language starts to come to light more, like when matrescence becomes a mainstream word and not one that someone says and then the other person is like, oh yeah, while they Google it,
Yeah.
and if we have this sort of rising up around conversations of early motherhood and that transition piece that you and I were talking about, where people go from being one to being, one plus,
Yeah.
and what that transition looks like and what that shift looks like and how their world changes and their mind changes and their body changes and all of that stuff. If we have that piece, And then we can say, okay, these are the people who study this. These are the people who know about this. These are the people who are qualified to speak on it and educate. Then I think that's a pole vault level of difference for the information that mothers have access to.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, even in real life, in my work, like there are certain parts of maternal mental health that I'm not like I know about, but I'm not the specialist on, and I will rip people out, and I'll say, no, there's someone else who's like, check out this therapist, like this is their niche, like this that they know that kind of that issue inside out. Go and speak to them, and we need the same online basically, where it's like that confidence to go, no, this is my stuff. I know this stuff. Like I'm really good at this stuff, but like I don't need to, be telling you about stuff that is not my area of expertise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the best things that people can do. Like I would follow somebody who said out loud, "This is not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
This is where I go."
Yeah.
And maybe that's because of my own background in healthcare. But if somebody says I'm not the expert, I would be like, absolutely, I will follow along with you, because you're someone who, like you said, stays in your lane and knows what your lane is to know when you're in and out of it.
Yeah, well, you just want someone to get the best help, right? And the best information, and if somebody else can give that, then why wouldn't you just send them there? But I suppose if you're looking to build a massive following and you know that you can say something that's going to go viral and get lots of eyes on your account, then
maybe there's an underground social media of experts and panelists that'll emerge out of somewhere.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You never know. So in all of this, like, I mean, the social media and the clinic and or the clinical work that you do and all of that stuff, like, how do you now think about you as part of that whole equation?
You mean kind of like the role that I'm playing?
No, like the things, where in all of those things you do, are you in the center of it? Like what is for you that makes you feel like, okay, I'm acknowledged at the table, or this is the thing that fills my bucket, for lack of a better example.
So you mean like, how do I feed my own kind of psychological needs, or what do I do? Like, I'm so busy at the moment. Well, do you know what? Weirdly, I actually think the Instagram thing, it is outward. But what I realized was, because my career before I had kids was corporate, so I used to run businesses and kind of create products and things. I paused to have the kids, because I made a choice. I was like, I'm going to be at home till they go to school, and I'm going to retrain. Always wanted to be a therapist forever and ever and ever. So like, now's the time. But I didn't realize how much I missed, like that part of my identity, like my being really shallow, like my job title and kind of how it made me feel about myself and what I thought it told the world about me. But I realized only when I started doing the social media stuff, the Instagram stuff, how much I missed being creative and kind of spotting, I guess, gaps in terms of what content could I create that would help someone to understand something that I didn't think other people were talking about. So like, I don't create content. I don't do much sort of general content. Like, I don't tend to do posts on, here are the 10 signs of postnatal depression, not because I don't think it's important, but there's so much out there. I don't really feel like anyone needs me to do that. Whereas if I can give somebody an insight into their own psychology in a way that, using the theory and the frameworks that I kind of use in my therapy, that maybe they haven't come across before, that excites me. And then I can kind of get creative about that. So I guess I do really enjoy it. I really enjoy the being creative and kind of coming up with things that I don't think someone will have thought about before, and hopefully kind of giving the mums that follow me a lens through which they can view themselves in a different way, in a much more compassionate way, that they can understand themselves, they can be really compassionate towards themselves, they can realize how good they are as a mum when they are telling themselves the opposite. So it doesn't sound like I have much else in my life, but because it does take up a lot of my time, but I do really enjoy it. I really enjoy the creativity of it. I really enjoy building something, like building a community. Do I do anything else? No.
I love that though. I went on a retreat it's a long story, but I went and they said, what do you do like for fun? What do you do to fill your bucket? And I said, I go to work. And people were like, you didn't understand the question. And I'm like, oh no, I did understand the question. It's that everything else I do is that. And when I go to work and I'm building something, creating something, that makes me feel like there's a piece of me that's in the world.
Yeah. I feel so energized when I work. Like I often work at night when the kids are in bed, and it's like I really want to do it. Like I've just decided I'm going to run a retreat for mums, and like that's my next project. And I'm like, but I'm really excited about it. It doesn't feel like work. I feel really lucky that it doesn't feel like work. And I suppose on the flip side, therapy work is heavy. I love it. It's heavy. And I have been asked that before. Sometimes I will just go and watch mindless Netflix, or I play Super Mario Kart. I do. I just need like that mindless kind of like just something to. But no, work. It like the creative side of it, the content side of it, I find so rewarding. It ticks loads of kind of mental boxes for me that day to day kind of mothering doesn't. And I feel really lucky to be able to kind of to work around my kids' schedule and do both.
And people are resonating with it too. I think that's a really important piece, is that you can see so many people face to face in therapy work, but you can't. If you hear things over and over again. And I think that sometimes the tendency can be to say like, oh, this is a problem. And that can sort of pick at you in terms of like, what if I had a group of those people, what would I say to them? And so you're creating the space for those people to be able to say, oh, wait a minute, let me listen to this woman and let me engage with the content and let me follow along and all of that stuff. So you are creating that like next layer of the onion out, which is very cool.
Genuinely, when I get messages and someone will say to me like, thank you, like they normally say something like, I've just found your page and it makes me feel so much better, or it makes me feel so seen, or it makes me feel, and I just like, I genuinely love that. And things where if I notice a theme in the therapy work of like, that a number of people struggle with this one kind of, I don't know, self-belief or kind of misconception about what motherhood should look like. And I think, well, there's a fair chance there's lots of women out there that are doing the same thing. And actually, if I know there's a quick reframe that could help them to, it's all about for me, it's all about getting them to see themselves differently. I want to help as many mums as I can to turn the volume down on their inner critic, because the inner critic is wrong. The inner critic is the patriarchy, it's society. It's just all those messages about what motherhood should look like. And it's nonsense. And so, that does fill my bucket. It does.
I love that. Well, I would love for you to let everyone know where they can find you if they're not already following along. I hope everybody is. But
very annoyingly, my Instagram is, as I said at the beginning, @_motherway_, or you can find me at motherway.co.uk. which is my website. And come along. I just love sharing like stuff about the reality of motherhood, like the actual reality, and hopefully normalizing our responses to it, because it is amazing. It is the best thing I've ever done, but it is also the hardest. And not loving motherhood doesn't mean that you don't love mothering. Like that's my kind of key thing that I always want women to understand. It's like, just because you don't enjoy bits of motherhood there is no connection to how you feel about your kids and being a mum.
So important. Put that right in again, along with those lights of the Las Vegas lights.
And mothering are completely separate, and you can hate it because it's the doing, it's the mental load, it's the invisible labor, it's all of that. It's not the important stuff.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. This has filled my cup.
Yay!
It really has. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.